Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going over my best of the best Sephora VIB sale recommendations. The Sephora VIB sale is coming up on April 5th. I will leave all the dates down below, but for VIB Rouge members, it starts April 5th. And then for VIB members, it starts on the 9th. So again, I will leave all the details below. I'm sure a lot of videos have already gone into detail about that. But I wanted to just go over my best of the best recommendations. So I'm not going to list like 50 things because sometimes I feel like these videos can be quite overwhelming when people list all the things. I'm just going to list the absolute best products that are at Sephora. So I'm going to start off with the skin, and one of my number one recommendations is this Prada Reveal Foundation. I have the shade MN40, and you can see I just have the refill because I actually bought this at Selfridges and they didn't have the full foundation available. They only have the refill available in my shade, so I just picked that up. So I just have the refill. I will eventually get the actual foundation, but unfortunately Prada is not available in Canada yet. But if you're in the United States, you can pick up this foundation at Sephora, and so I highly, highly recommend this foundation. This has just become one of my absolute favorite foundations in my entire collection. It looks beautiful on the skin. It has this really beautiful hydrating finish to it, but it's not a glowy foundation. I would say it actually dries down to more of a soft matte finish, but even though it has that soft matte finish, it still has hydration to it. So if you have dry skin, I feel like this foundation is going to work really well for you. This is one of the most blurring foundations in my entire collection. And if you don't know, I love a foundation that can blur the skin, and this foundation does that. It just smooths over texture of pores. It makes everything look completely smooth and blurred and filtered. It gives that really beautiful soft focus effect. And not only that, it has such a great longevity to it. This wears all day long for me. I never need to touch up. I never need to worry that it's going to be separating or it's going to look too oily throughout the day. It's just such a good foundation, and I feel like this is the type of foundation that's going to work for dry skin and oily skin. I also feel like it's going to work for mature skin as well because it has a little bit of that glycerin feel to it. So again, even though it has a soft matte, it's like a skin-like finish. I want to say it's not a matte finish. It's not a flat finish. It's just a very skin-like finish. It still has that hydration, so I feel like mature skin would really like this as well. And it has about a medium coverage. It's not completely full coverage. It's not completely light coverage, but it does have that medium coverage. So I feel like the finish, the coverage amount on this foundation, just everything about this foundation is perfect. It is right in the middle, so I feel like it's going to work for absolutely everyone. And I feel like this is a foundation you can manipulate as well, because if you want more of a skin tint, just mix this with a moisturizer or mix it with a glowy primer. You can mix it with a mattifying primer if you're someone with oilier skin. And if you want a fuller coverage, I guess you can't get completely full coverage out of this, but you can build this up to a medium coverage. But I just like that I can wear this in a multitude of different ways. It's just such a standout product. One of my favorite products that I've ever tried, and this is just excellent. So highly recommend you try this out for the Sephora sale. And I will also be doing a get ready with me featuring all these products. So stay tuned for that video. It will probably be coming up next, so you can see all these products in action. But next on my list is this Givenchy Prisme Libre Skin Caring Concealer. I wear the shade N250. Did I mention I wear the shade MN40 in the Prada foundation? But this is the shade N250. I might get a darker color during the Sephora sale because this is something that I will be repurchasing, that I will be purchasing in a different shade or the same shade. I haven't decided yet, but this is just like slightly too light for me, which is why I'm considering getting a little bit of a deeper shade, because I like to wear this concealer almost as a foundation replacement. Say I have, I don't know, I'm running errands for the day, or I need to be out of the house quickly, I'm going to the gym in the morning. I like to utilize this concealer all over the face. This works beautifully not only under the eyes, but also all over the face. So I can wear it on my face, like I said, and it performs so beautifully. This is more hydrating than the Prada foundation, but it has a very beautiful skin-like finish to it. It just has a little bit more glow than that Prada foundation. And I just love this. I love everything about it. I love the coverage level. I love the finish on the skin. I love how it makes my skin look, because it has a really beautiful skin-like quality to it. So even though this has decent coverage, I would say it's like a medium coverage. When I blend it out onto the skin, it doesn't look heavy at all. It doesn't look cakey. It doesn't look textured. It is just such a beautiful beautiful concealer, and it is one of those concealers that has that blurring capability as well. It just makes your skin look so smooth. So I like to use this all on the under eye region, and then I like to just apply it all over my face, which is kind of why I want to get a deeper color, because I still could use a deeper color underneath my eyes. It would just blend into my foundation a little bit better. And then I could also just use it all over my face without having to go in with like a bronzer or anything like that. I just think this is one of the most beautiful, beautiful concealers. I am almost completely done with this. So I do need to get a backup. I just think this would work for everyone as well. I feel like if you have oily skin, it's not too hydrating of a concealer that it won't work for you. And if you have dry skin, this does have enough hydration where it works really well. And like I said, I really like how it performs not only on the under eye region, but I like how it performs all over the face. And most of the time when I buy a concealer, I find that it just works better in one area. Like maybe I have a concealer that only works good for the under eyes, or I have a concealer that only works good as like a spot concealer. But this one really does excel in both areas, which is why it's kind of a standout concealer for me. And I just think it's really worth the price. It is definitely worth the money, and I would highly suggest you pick up this concealer during the sale. I also like to use this as an eyeshadow primer, so instead of using a tinted eyeshadow primer, I'll just go in with this concealer throughout the day, and it wears really beautifully as well. I just have nothing bad to say about this concealer. It's definitely one of my favorite products at Sephora, and I highly recommend it. I actually have quite a lot of blushes to mention. I am just becoming more of a blush girl than a bronzer girl. Like sometimes I only will go in with like foundation or say this Givenchy concealer and then just apply a blush, and that's all I wear for the day. I'm just a huge blush fan. And some of my favorite blushes, I'm just going to talk about this first, is the Charlotte Tilbury Matte Beauty Blush Wand in the shade Pillow Talk. This apparently was limited edition, but this shade Pillow Talk is still available at Sephora. And I just absolutely adore this color and this formulation. So this is like the most beautiful, it's like a mauvey shade. It has a little bit of pink to it, but it's not like a very saturated color, so it's not like a bright pop of color. It just blends into the skin very beautifully, and I feel like this will work for a lot of complexions, especially me having a little bit of a lighter skin tone. It works really well for me. It gives me enough color where it just gives me like that flush from within. And this formulation is so gorgeous as well, because even though it's more of a liquid blush formula, I find it very, I think if you're a complete beginner, it might be a little hard to work with, but it's a lot easier to work with than a lot of other liquid blushes on the market. You have ample time to work with it. It doesn't dry down right away. It is a really nice formula that I feel like is easier to work with than some other cream products. It does have a decent amount of pigmentation, as you can see, so I would just go in with a little bit of product, and I like to apply it to the palm of my hand, and I will work from there. I don't apply it directly to my face. Again, you will see in my try-on video that you will see how I apply this and how I find it works best. I really love the finish of this as well, because it's not a cream blush where it's going to give you a glossy finish, which a lot of cream blushes do, and then that can emphasize texture. This has this really nice satin finish dry down. There are no shimmer particles to it, but it doesn't dry down. It says it's a matte formula, but I don't think it dries down completely matte. It dries down more to a skin finish, where your skin really looks like skin. This does just meld right into the skin. And it's so long wearing as well. Once I apply this to the skin, I don't find that I need to go in with a powder blush. A lot of times with cream blushes, you'll kind of need to set it down with a powder blush just to ensure that it's locked down and that it won't fade throughout the day. But with this, once it's set down on the skin, you are not going to have any fading. It is completely super long wearing. And I also really love this color because I feel like this color is going to go with so many different looks. This is a shade that you will reach for when you don't know what to wear, but you just want it to look good with anything. This is the type of shade, like when I'm like, I don't know what I want to wear today, I know that this is always going to look good, so I'm going to reach for it. Now, another cream blush formula that I am really loving is the Patrick Ta. This is the Double Take Cream and Powder Blush Duo. You can tell that I like the cream blush definitely more than the powder blush. I will say I'm not the biggest fan of the powder blush. I think it's good, but I'm not obsessed with it in comparison to some other formulas that I really love that are at Sephora. But this does have a really nice velvety texture. It is quite pigmented though. If you were aware of his previous formulation, or I guess it's his powder blush formula that just comes in a single, that is quite sheer and you need to really build it up on the skin. This is not like that at all. This has a lot more pigment, but the cream blush is definitely my favorite of the two in this duo. because it gives you this really, it's like the opposite of the Charlotte Tilbury, because I would say this finish is quite glossy on the skin. It doesn't dry down completely, but it's a really, really pretty blush, and I feel like it's the type of blush that really does look like skin, and this color is so gorgeous. It looks like that I'm naturally blushing, so this is one of my favorites to reach for when I just want that no makeup look, because I think it just looks like, again, I'm really flushed and it's a really natural looking blush. So it's a really beautiful color. I just think this formula is so easy to work with. If you can see, it has a little bit more sheerness, I would say, than the Charlotte Tilbury. And it is a little bit more glossier on the skin. Like I said, it doesn't completely set down, but it's not going to move around your skin. It's not going to disturb the makeup underneath. It's also like, your hair is not going to get stuck in it, because that's my biggest pet peeve when it comes to cream products, is if your hair gets stuck in it, or if, I don't know, sometimes cream products can just look weird on the skin. I almost feel like they can look heavier because they're so glossy and so wet on the skin, but this doesn't stay completely glossy on the skin, so I really appreciate that. But I just think this has a gorgeous skin-like quality to it, and it's just such a pretty formula. I mean, you can see how much I've used it. It's just a really great one, and I highly recommend this. So this first powder blush formula is not going to be a surprise if you've been to my channel. This is the Valentino Eye to Cheek blush, the dual use blush and shadow. So you can use this as an eyeshadow or a blush. I only use this as a blush, but I thought that this color would be perfect to mention for the spring savings event, because spring and summer is where we tend to go for maybe brighter or pops of colors on the cheeks. And this shade is the shade number 2. I think it's called Very Rose. This is just so stunning, and I know it looks scary in the pan, and I know it looks very bright and obnoxious, but what I like to do, and again, you'll see it in the Get Ready With Me, I like to just take one dab on a brush, and I'll take off the excess. Sometimes I'll go in with 2, but I just take off the excess, and then I'll dab it onto the cheek. And when you go in with a light amount of product, the flush that this gives your cheeks is actually quite natural looking, and it just makes your skin look so pretty and beautiful. I highly recommend this. Like, honestly, if you're scared of pops of colors, try this one out and just go in with a light amount of product. And again, I can show you how to layer these sort of products so that they're not as scary. And it's just so beautiful. And the texture of this blush, and of course, you don't have to get this shade. I also really like the shade number 9. It's more of a neutral shade. So if you want something more neutral that's like a neutral nude, this is a really beautiful one as well. But the texture of this blush is probably my favorite thing, because it has this creamy formula, so you'll feel it and you'll think it feels like a cream. It's almost like a powder to cream. So when you apply it onto the skin, it's going to apply, you're going to have that ease of application of a powder. Like, it's not going to be hard to work with like some creams are, like they're a little finicky. This you apply just like a powdered product, but how it sits on the skin, it melts right in, so that it doesn't look like a powder formula. It's not going to look powdery on your skin. It's not going to look matte. It's not going to look heavy. This has an ever so soft sheen, but there are no detectable shimmer particles, so you're not going to see any shimmer sitting on the skin, because that is what I do not like in blushes. I don't like to see that detectable shimmer. This is just a standout product. It is gorgeous, and I really recommend this. If you haven't yet tried this out, you got it. Another blush that I think is a really innovative formula, and I really love this. This is the Givenchy, the Prisme Libre blush, the 4-color loose powder blush. So there are different quadrants in this. There's 4 different ones, and they all have a different shade of a pink. This one is in the shade number 2, Taffeta's Rosé. I tried the coral one, and I didn't love the coral one as much, just because I don't think coral looks as good on my skin tone personally. This just gave me the best flush of color. If you are a fan of the Dior Rosy Glow blushes, before they reformulated them, I think these are the most similar to that formulation, but these are even better, especially compared to the new formula. I don't like the new formula. It's not very good. But how I like to apply this is I'll just apply a little bit to that lid. And again, I'll swirl my brush around. You want to break up that pigment and make sure it's evenly distributed onto your brush. And then again, I just always take off the excess just in case, and then I'll just pat it onto the skin. And this is such a beautiful color, and this kind of color I feel like just gives you youth back to your skin. So if you're feeling a little tired or a little dull, this type of color, this kind of baby pink, it really just gives you life back to your cheeks. And if you go in with a small amount, it's not going to look like this obnoxious baby pink color. It's going to look really beautiful. Let me see. These are kind of hard to swatch, obviously, because they're in this loose powder. But I just think this formula is a little bit of an innovative formula because it's different. It's not just a typical powder formula, and it's a sheer pigment, so it's definitely buildable. So that's what I really like about it as well. It's not going to be full pigmentation right off the bat. It's just very buildable. So I went in with quite a heavy swatch there. You can see that it's quite different compared to the other blushes that I've shown you so far. It's definitely a lighter pink, more of that baby, kind of baby cool tone pink. But it's so beautiful on the skin, and it really just gives your skin life and youthfulness and brightness. So I kind of recommend this for anyone. I think it would look beautiful on any skin tone. And I think the formula is really beautiful because, like I said, there's a sheerness to it. So it's not going to look heavy on the skin at all. It's not going to look powdery. It has an ever so soft sheen, but again, there are no detectable shimmer particles. This is just a beautiful formulation. So I recently did a video on my favorite one and done shadows. I didn't mention any matte shadows in that video just because I was talking about sophisticated shimmers. But if I had to mention some of my favorite matte eyeshadows, I really love this Merit. This is the Solo Shadow. So this is a cream eyeshadow that's in a pot. I would say it's very similar to the MAC, what were they called? The paint pots, that's what they're called. Very similar formula. They're quite creamy and they do dry down on the skin. So I feel like you do have to work a little bit faster with them, and you want to just go in with a layer of product. They're not super buildable, so you're not going to be able to add tons of layers onto the skin. I would just go in with one layer and blend it out because I feel like if you layer it, that's when it can get a little heavy on the skin. It can get a little gummy. But if you just apply one layer of product, it's really gorgeous. I really love this formulation. I think it's really easy to use. It doesn't dry down super quickly that it's too hard to work with, but it definitely does dry down and it won't budge throughout the day. And I think this color is beautiful. This is the shade Vachetta, I believe that's how it's pronounced. And I just think it's such a great go-to eyeshadow for every day. It's really quick to apply. It's really easy to apply, especially for me. And like I'm wearing it today, I just used it as a one and done, and then I did apply a little bit of shimmer over top. But it's so easy to use. I really like the longevity of this. It lasts all day long on my eyes. Doesn't crease, doesn't move, doesn't fade. Just a really great one and done eyeshadow if you're looking for something completely matte. But of course, you can always layer shimmer over top. This is just really great. And wow, I didn't know how much I would love these lip products, but these are becoming some of my favorite lip products that I have ever tried. These are the YSL Rouge Volupté Candy Glazes. I have the shade number 02 and number shade 15. I have to say 02, which is just like the clear lip balm, is my favorite. It is so good. Number 15 is really beautiful as well. It's just like a nude shade. My favorite thing is the formulation of these. These are they have like this thick texture to them. So they feel like they grip your lips and they give you such a great hydration. It doesn't feel completely like an oil. Like that's not at all how it feels. I feel like those oily lip kind of products, they feel very thin. But this one has this thick consistency, but because it's thick, it really grips the lips and it provides so much hydration. I feel like thicker lip products really grip onto the lips and they add this layer of hydration, where thin lip products, I feel like they just get absorbed into my lips and then I feel like I have nothing on after like 10 minutes and then I need to keep reapplying. With these, I don't feel like I have to keep reapplying every like hour, but of course they are a sheer, more balmier texture, so you are going to have to reapply this sort of product. But I just love how they look. I think this is beautiful to top off any lip color if you just want a little bit of gloss. So good. These are a standout product, and I feel like the packaging is really luxurious as well. A lot of buying luxury makeup, part of it is that you want to feel confident when you are applying that makeup. But it's the experience, you know, like just this experience of applying this lip product, how heavy it feels. It feels like a luxury product, and it is so good. Really recommend you try these out if you haven't already. I've tried a lot of YSL lip products. These are my favorite, and this is just a standout formula because it's different. I will say the one downfall is if you keep these in your car and it's really hot out, or you keep them in your bag and it's really hot out, they will melt out of the sides. You can even see like around the edges here, it kind of melts, but that's because they melt on contact with your lips. It's like this balmy formula, but as soon as you apply it to your lips, it melts right in. It's just really unique and it's really good, so I definitely recommend those. And I have to talk about my favorite mascara combination just because I feel like it's important to mention. Now, I can't find the mascara anywhere, so I don't know where I put it, but this is the Dior Maximizer 3D Triple Action Lash Primer, Serum, Volume, Curl, and Definition. This is basically just the Dior Lash Primer. If you haven't tried a lash primer, please try this Dior one. It is so, so good. It gives you this really great prep for your mascara, and I know that kind of sounds weird, but it does make your mascara just apply better. It will give you more length, more volume, and better longevity as well. So I love to use this under my mascara. And then my favorite mascara is the YSL Lash Clash in the shade Brown. Try it out if you haven't tried a brown mascara. I just feel like it makes a difference. It makes everything look a little bit softer and just more natural. I tried to wear a black mascara and now it's such a difference, honestly. It's just such a softer look with the brown mascara. If you're someone that doesn't like soft looks, then obviously keep up with the black mascara. But I've just been preferring a softer makeup look, and I really like that. It gives me really great length and separation and volume. I will say the one downfall to the YSL Lash Clash is that it has, throughout the day, it does tend to smudge a little bit. I was going to say flake. It doesn't flake, but it smudges a little bit. So when it's really hot in summer months, it will smudge a little bit. So that's my only problem with it. They have come out with waterproof versions. Hopefully they'll release the waterproof in a brown. I don't typically love a waterproof mascara because they're harder to remove, but I don't even care that the YSL smudges a little bit because of how it makes my lashes look. It makes them look so, so good that I will, I'm okay with it smudging a little bit. It's fine. Just because of how great the formula is, so I highly recommend that. And then something else I've been really loving, but you haven't seen me try this out because I haven't filmed my Sephora haul yet that I've done, but this is something that I just decided to try out because I like to try out my products before I do a video on them, just so I can give you more well-formed thoughts versus it being first impression. I don't find first impression videos helpful at all. This Bare Minerals Highlighting Blush. So this is the Gen Nude Highlighting Blush in the shade Opal Glow. This is marketed more as a blush, but don't use it as a blush. This is such a beautiful highlighter. Again, it has this very velvety feel to it. It is quite powdery though, but I don't really care. It's such a gorgeous, gorgeous formulation. I'm running out of room here. So I really, really enjoy this because it has a little bit of a pink shift to it. So it's more of a cool tone, pink-based highlighter, I want to say. But there are absolutely no detectable shimmer particles to this, which I love. If you know me and highlighters, I don't like something where you can see glitter on the skin. I don't like that you can see individual shimmer particles on the skin. This has no detectable shimmer. It gives you more of a sheen. So I'd say it's almost like a highlighting powder or illuminating powder versus a highlighter. Like if you like those intense highlighters that you can see from across the room, you won't enjoy this because this is more of a subtle highlighter. And I really like this because it has that pink shift to it. So when you apply it on the cheeks, like sometimes when you have a highlighter, you can just see like a stripe of white on someone's face and it looks like you can't see their blush when they've applied the highlighter. It will just almost like come right through the blush. It almost looks like you're wearing no blush over where you've applied that highlighter. I hope that makes sense. If you've ever seen someone wear an intense highlighter, you'll know what I mean, where their highlighter is, it will just look like they have no blush on or no product. It just looks like this stripe of highlight. Because this has this blushy tone to it, it blends right in with your blush and it doesn't give you that stripe of highlight that a lot of other highlighters do. This really just blends in with your other products, so you're not going to get that harsh stripe of where there's that separation between the bronzer, the blush, and the highlighter. It's really, really gorgeous. And again, this formula is just very silky. It's very velvety. Really, really pretty. I highly recommend this if you're someone that is a little bit afraid of highlighter or you've had bad experiences with those really intense shimmery highlighters, but maybe you want to try out a highlighter because you're just intrigued by it. This is one of the formulas that I would recommend because it's really easy to work with because it is a powder. A powder highlighter is going to be a little easier to work with than a cream powder, but it's gorgeous. But those are all my Sephora VIB sale recommendations for the upcoming sale. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know down below your recommendations because I always love to pick up what you recommend. I'm going to have a Sephora haul coming up probably before the sale starts or on the day the sale starts. And then I also will be doing that try on where I'm going to be trying on all these products that I mentioned in that video. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like this video if you like it, and I'll see you in my next video.